our people are gone.
We're live?
Why can't you hear them?
Who? The boys?
Yeah.
They're all being quiet. Probably. Alright, here we are.
You told us not to talk.
Yeah, no, we got this. Alright, good morning. Saturday morning, Easter Saturday morning. What happens on Easter Saturday morning? We drink coffee.
We drink coffee.
Drink coffee with mates.
Let's go.
Alright, so today is going to be a little bit different for those folks out there watching us on Facebook and Instagram. We're going to do a little bit of a cupping. The plan, so let's go back a little bit. The plan was originally to send out Papua New Guinea out to some of these 4 coffee famous dudes you can see on screen over here somewhere. You see these guys over here? Jeremy, put your hand up. BonLife Coffee up there in Tennessee. Brandon Bir. Where are you hanging out these days, Brandon?
Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. Mark, Michaelson, the other fella down there with the beautiful beard. Up there, and where are you from, Mark?
Northwest Arkansas, home of Walmart, Tyson Foods, and Sam's Club. The only place you can shop local by going there.
Alright, so for those folks who are watching us live on Instagram and Facebook, these guys are pretty famous in the coffee world. I think the collection of the screen right now is at least 6 or 7 golden beans, a US roasting champion, and multiple awards for Onyx and the guy behind them roasting all their coffee. So lots of coffee fame sitting on the screen right there. So the boys will run with it. They're great mates of mine. That's why they're here. No other reason, just to talk coffee and shoot the beans. Oh, nearly. I tell you, I have to remember I'm live.
Beans.
The beans, baby.
All right. So the plan today was to run our Papua New Guinea, to have a bit of a tasting and have a bit of a cupping, but the beans didn't make it to the boys on time, so we're just going to do that here. We'll talk our way through it. Some of the guys know the coffee anyway. I bought this lot from Balzac Brothers up in South Carolina. Yeah.
South Carolina.
South
Shout
Carolina.
out to Ricky.
Yeah, shout out to Ricky. Good job, buddy. Great coffee. I bought a few bags of this stuff because it was one of the best I've tasted in quite a while. We'll take the folks out there in Facebook and Instagram world through what we do on a daily basis. And Mark, you do this every day, right? You guys do this every day, Brandon?
Our team. Well, right now during the Corona, we're doing, Summer is doing QC, and then every other day Nick will do it. So we're not trying to mix the cupping because we don't want to catch it with anyone. So
Yeah.
But yeah, every day somebody from Onyx is cupping every roast that we do.
Yeah, and imagine the protocols now around cupping have certainly have to change quite a bit. I think even going into the future, there may be some changes in the parameters of how we do cupping. Hygiene is definitely a huge priority right now. Brandon, how often do you guys?
I think we're going to see a lot of changes. I know I write curriculum for the SCA sensory level or sensory certification.
Yep.
And that's a big topic of conversation right now, is changing the way that we do things to hopefully mitigate the risk of getting infected.
Yeah, for sure. How often? You're outsourcing a lot of green coffee, and you're out traveling around in the countries and whatnot. You do primarily where you do most of your cupping, or are you doing it back in the lab? What's the deal for you?
Lab, at home. I pretty much have the capability of doing it anywhere. So just try to cup as much as I possibly can every single day.
Yeah, and for those if you're ever in a room and you always know Brandon's cupping.
I'm a little bit loud. I'm trying to tame it.
We gotta get you to slurp.
It's awesome. Look, I think, you know what? I love it and I respect it, and I try to mimic it. Honestly, I try and be as good as that because I know what you're actually creating in the whole process is what we all strive to get to. Jamie, what do you got? When do you cup and how often do you cup, Jeremy?
I only cup on days. Yeah, that's pretty much,
as we've gotten further in, the one thing that I still do more than anybody else is the cupping side, right? Both on the front end, determining which coffees we're going to get, and then on the production side, I still do a little bit of the roasting, but most of the roasting we actually have a couple other guys that are doing. So I just do kind of the QC on the back end and give them, pointers based on, hey, maybe a little more, a little less on this coffee. So yeah, cupping is daily.
Yeah, but I know rolling into competition times, when we're getting ready for Golden Bean, and when you're actually in the finals for US Roasters, right?
Yeah, if and when that ends up happening.
If it ever happens, yeah.
We're still waiting to hear.
So, but I'm seeing you cup. I mean, you cup on a pretty regular basis, especially when you're getting ready for coming into that competition side of things.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime new coffees come in, right, we're always trying to figure out exactly where we want to put it. So we're cupping it for that reason, just to profile it, and then also just spot checking your coffees regularly makes good sense. So those out there that are not doing it, I encourage you to do it. And you don't have to be, have that sexy whistle like Brandon. You can just sip it.
You can just sip it, that sexy whistle. That's what it is.
It does make it better.
It
though.
is that whoop out the back there. It's like he's got it going on. All right, for those folks at home, what we're talking about is is this all being seen?
Yes, from this one.
All right, so what we talk about when we talk about cupping in the professional world is we're sampling coffee per the SCA. So the SCA is the Specialty Coffee Association. It used to be the SCAA, correct? Specialty Coffee Association of America. And we run per a protocol of what is called cupping. And the cupping protocol is using an equal-based beans to water ratio in a vessel that is similar to this or like this or these are cupping bowls. And what it does is sets a standard across the industry about how it is we get to try and taste different coffees. And I know Brandon can chime in here. Like he said, he writes a lot of the curriculum for educating the coffee professionals around the place. So that's really, really cool. We'll get Brandon to chime in along the way and correct me as we go. But what the standard cupping protocol is 8.25 grams to 150 milliliters of water. How am I doing so far?
Yep.
But it's adjusted to the bowl. So what we do in Oceana Coffee is I use these bowls. These bowls are nice. Where are these from? Rhino. These are Rhino ware bowls. So they're really nice. They're black. I like to use the black. Then it doesn't give me any biases towards the coffees or how I've roasted it or comparisons. Or even when I'm getting ready to do coffee tasters and whatever, if I want to compete in that, it doesn't give me any indication of what the coffee is within the bowl. And being black, it gives me no background whatsoever. And so I'm actually cupping blind because that's the best way to get the most out of what we're doing. And that is to reduce the biases, because we all have biases, right? So when we talk about biases, I know when I talk about teaching classes at Oceana, is that no matter where we're from and no matter what we've done, we all carry a bias, and it's our ability as coffee pros, especially with these four guys, it's our ability to turn off our biases, or to at least to know them and to know what we have a favor to. So for me, if I'm going into a competition and a cupping, I know that I have a bias, or I have a tendency to like and enjoy Ethiopian naturals. So I know instantly if there's one on the table, my taste buds will go, whoa, and we're home. So I know that I've got to tone those down, or at least I know that I've got to have them check marked on the side and go, okay, how am I able to taste all these coffees equally, knowing that one of those is my favorite? So this is what this does. That gets rid of some of the biases. Also knowing them and noting them in your head. So yeah, that helps. But because this bowl, anyway, back to it, this bowl holds about 225 milliliters of water, so I'm up to about 12.5 grams of coffee, roughly, about 1175. But so what we do is we pre-measure, and I've pre-measured, so I've got they can see that there. I've got the Papua New Guinea in the bowl, in whole beans. This one I've ground already, pre-ground, getting ready for us. So we measure out, we zero the bowl, we zero the scale out, so we get the bowl only, put the beans in, and then we can grind it in here. Ultimately, the rules are to keep it fresh and from gassing off, because there's much more to cupping than what I'm going to show you guys. What I'm going to show you guys at home is just a little insight into what we do on the professional side of the industry. But to taste this with me, you guys at home can use whatever method you have. If you're using a Bonavita, or you're using a Mr. Coffee, or you're using whatever it is you're using, the end result and the way we can taste this can be the same. You know, so we use a spoon. Usually it's very similar to a soup spoon. It's a little bit different shape and carries a little bit more liquid in it. But that's purely ease of convenience of use, really. So it makes it easier for us to get through into the liquid, and also helps us measure, or pseudo measure, how much we're actually pulling in. Brandon, actually, can you talk to that a little bit?
Well, I mean, I think that we just suggest having a spoon that carries enough liquor to cover your palate. So I think that everyone's a little bit different. So some people have really big mouths. So if you look at Jeremy, he's going to need a very
huge spoon, the biggest.
It's almost like a waiter.
I knew that was coming. That was coming a mile away.
That's actually what I use as a ladle. So
I think that it all depends on what you're comfortable with. I actually I like a smaller bowl for my spoon, because I tend to get too much liquor, and I don't aspirate correctly if I have too much liquor in my spoon. So just enough to spread along your palate is what you're looking for.
Yeah, so what we talk about, I'll pull some of those apart. What we talk about when we aspirate, we actually, when you have the liquor, like Brandon says, when you have the liquid on the spoon, you're actually looking to pull like a rain vapor into your mouth, over your tongue and over your palate, and that gives you the most. What is that? It gives you a broad spray of the elements within the coffee, or within anything you're tasting, actually, to be able to recognize some of the flavors and some of the notes that are going on, and some of the aspects of the tongue. The tongue is divided up into it's a very complex piece of apparatus, and an amazing thing for us. And I tell a lot of people at the very base level that there's different parts of the tongue recognizes different parts of the flavor profiles. At the very back of your tongue, you can taste the bitterness in the back corners of your tongue. In the front, you can taste the sweetness. In the middle, you taste the body. I mean, even Mark, you want to chime in on that? You're a pro, and you're doing lots and lots of cupping. You want to help out along that?
I think tongue mapping is pretty valuable in that you can pretty much, if you're cupping coffee, you'll know the variety, not the variety necessarily, but the origin of what you're cupping. Based whether, it has some phosphoric acidity, whether it's Kenyan, or, having the different types of body, you can really allow yourself to be able to be completely unbiased and not knowing what the coffee is, but still knowing sort of the region of the coffee based on where it's hitting, whether it's at malic or citric, or whether it's tea-like body. It really helps define, or at least I find it helps define where I'm going with the cupping.
Yeah.
Right. I think one thing about that is that, tongue mapping is something that's been around for a really long time. And what we're finding now with newer research, especially out of Korea or South Korea, Japan, is that every palate is a little bit different. So we generalize, we can make these generalizations, but at the same time, every individual has receptors, has palate, like it has taste buds for every single taste. So your sour, your sweet, your salty, whatever it may be, and they're all over your tongue. They're just concentrated in different areas.
Yep.
So like each person's palate is their own palate. So just practicing and understanding where you taste those things is really important, like Mark was saying.
Yeah, and that's what we talk about a lot, is it's practice. And I even talk with my team on a regular basis, just purely practice. And I was talking to one of my girls the other day about how we recognize the different bits and pieces. And I was saying, and I actually meant to bring it here, but standing in front of the flavor wheel and working from the middle out, and just from a base level and just bringing them on as we go, and recognizing. And I always talk about my brain being compartmentalized, because it takes a lot to get to this level and to understand what's happening and to train and to practice and to name some of the flavors. Now, I think that's hard. I think for me personally, that's one of the hardest things, was recognizing a flavor in something and naming it. That's cranberries, and then actually remembering what the significance of the cranberry flavor was that I was to categorize. And then when we get to the level that we're doing, that we're at, Q graders, and that having to pull out within that flavor perspective of cranberries, pulling out sweetness, pulling out acidity, pulling out the actual recognition of the name of the flavor. It's like looking at an ice cream and remembering all of those different categories and how to compartmentalize it. And then I talk to a lot of people about, I use the analogy of a filing cabinet. If it's chocolate, I go into the chocolate cabinet drawer and I look in there and I look through the different folders, and each folder's got dark chocolate, baker's chocolate, milk chocolate, and all the rest of those bits and pieces. And then within those, they've got their own definitions as well. So yeah, there's a lot to tasting coffee, and then getting deeper and deeper. It's that rabbit hole of knowledge. So you want to add anything?
It's something I think we'll cover, but typically I've had people email me or message me about, hey, I got your coffee, blah, blah. It said these certain flavor notes, but I never got them. Like, why am I not getting them? A lot of it is perspective, right? Well, we all taste different things, but it's also, we're cupping. Cupping is a form of brewing. In that it's a universal form, but it is a brewing form. And so if you brew it differently than the cupping thing, you may not taste those things.
Yeah.
And so I've had a lot of people say, I'm not as good as you because I don't taste that. I'm like, but what do you taste?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. It's not necessarily hitting all the flavor notes on a coffee bag, because, again, we're doing it by a brewing method that's universal. And so I always tell people, even though it says, cherry on there, you may get some other type of acidity, but it's in this family of flavors. Like you said, the box, the chocolate box.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's an awesome way to say it. Honestly, we put, I've got it written on here. It says here, brown sugar, cherry, and cantaloupe. But, if you've never tried a cantaloupe, or you call them something different in Australia like a rock melon, how am I ever going to know what that is? Or if I haven't tasted it. But it's like exactly what you said, though. It is really all about what experiences we've had, where we've been, and it's got everything to do with the environment you're in at the moment. If you're slugging on a coffee, or you're slugging on a bourbon, and you try the coffee, or you just chomped on a donut, it's like a Jupiter donut, of course. But if you've just eaten a donut and you're tasting the coffee, you're not going to taste a lot of the sweet notes, or and the fats in the donuts are going to demolish a lot of the different aspects of what's in the coffee. So the environment of what we taste and how we taste has a lot to do with it. For those of you out there watching us, it's about what's in the cup. And Jeremy and I have had huge conversations about this. And in particular, it's like, a buddy of ours was roasting, and it was always talking about the roast, and was like, our end result is, how does it taste? Like, how does it taste? You know, it's not about trying to make your palate taste what's on the bag, because like as Mark said, you know, we've been doing this a long time, you know, and we pick up different nuances for us along the way. Got a question?
We do have a question. So for the people at home who want the best way to taste a lot of different coffees, what would you guys recommend is one of the best methods to really get the most out of the coffee when you're trying to taste for flavor notes?
Great question. I would say, for me, when I'm in a hurry, and you know from working with me in the roastery, for me in a hurry, or if I'm roasting, I'm in production and I'm trying to pick off a coffee in the moment, you know, I'll ask one of the girls to do me a pour over. But what I do though, and the reason I say that is because I have one particular brew method that I know delivers a broad range of flavors along the way for me to be able to recognize what the potential within that coffee. Not, you know, I can do it as a use of production, but I can also use it as giving me a window into the coffee. You know, and I use a pour over, so my method is a pour over, and so I know every time I have a brand new coffee, if I run it through the pour over, I know that I can recognize it on a database, on a datum line of recognition. So that's where. So for me personally, I use pour over, but I also know that, you know, actually, Jeremy, what do you use outside of cupping?
Right, yeah, I definitely want every coffee to go through, you know, the first cut is the cupping table, right?
Yeah.
And from there, you know, typically I'll do a pour over as well. And if it's one we're really trying to play around with, we'll also do a batch brew, right, to check, because that's the way most of our coffee in our shops is consumed on batch brew, and most of us at home, right? I see even on counters, you know, for all of us, right, we all probably have some sort of a multi-cup batch brewer. So I think, you know, knowing how a coffee behaves there too, and ultimately for the individual, it's, you know, what's your normal way of doing it. It's you know, it's the old adage of practice makes perfect. I mean, you know, you're talking to guys who have done this thousands of times.
Quite literally.
You know, you do something enough, you're going to get good at it. So,
yeah.
So I think, you know, if you're really serious about wanting to get better at cupping, okay, do it more frequently. But in general, you know, use the methods you like the most, right? So just use that one, just use it more frequently, and continue to practice with it.
Yeah, good points. Actually, did that answer the question?
Yeah.
But to add to that too, I've used the batch brewer. I've used the home batch brewer. But here's the trick of what I have done and what I do. Ah, there we go again.
He loves that doo-doo.
It's down under.
Down under.
So what I do, so here's for those folks at home. So what I do, if I've got multiple coffees and I've tried them, or I've done multiple roast profiles on the same coffee, I'll bring the coffees home and I'll brew them, as Jeremy said, I'll brew them in the batch brewer, the little Mr. Coffee unit. But what I'll do is I will fill one of these guys and cap it and set it aside, and then brew the next batch right behind it. So now I've got two coffees side by side brewed in the same method at the same temperature. It becomes temperature becomes really, really important, and it will have a massive sway on what you're recognizing in the palate. And that goes, you know, so this whole day, how we're doing so far, this whole thing is all about, it is about cupping, but it is about tasting coffee and how to keep a consistency. You'll hear these guys.
That's it.
Yeah. You'll hear these guys over and over and over again. We, all four of us, will talk about consistency, and it's not about the coffee, because the coffee is a variable, but everything else, as long as the four of us, if you put four of us in a room, we'll make sure that everything is consistent. The temperature of the water, the grind size on the beans, how we're testing it, how we're tasting it, what temperature we're using, what methods, what bowls we're using, what spoons we're using, like everything, as long as we can only make the coffee the variable, which is ultimately what happens, everything else should be the same and equal in that environment, and that's the way you want to taste coffee. So no matter what you do, the more you can keep, and you can use the tools in the kitchen at home. You can do it every time and all the time the same way. So it's all about consistency, and it's all about even if you wanted to do that, it's all about collecting the data as well. If you really want to get into that, really you want to go down that geeky road of being a coffee pro at that level, then you talk to all of us. I'm sure there's a notebook not far away from here somewhere in all of our hands that we've got notes, or we scribble notes, or we know where do we go back to reference our cupping scores and our cupping notes and coffees that we've tasted. And like Mark said, all the boys can definitely jump on a cupping table, and I'd say our hit rate of guessing what the origins are on the table are 75% and above, so it's all about practice, and that's what we all do that on a regular basis, no doubt. Thousands and thousands and thousands of cups of slurping this coffee and trying it out gives you the practice on a regular basis. So consistency's big. Any other questions out there?
We don't have a question, but firefighter Kent wanted to let you know he's making a siphon, and he hopes that you have chaps to match that.
I'm sure.
Don't we all?
One of these four will probably have chaps in amongst others. Yeah, I won't do that.
I'm not going to say that I'm not wearing pants.
May or may not.
May or may not. So if I walk backwards like this, except you can see the bottom of my shorts, I just.
Oh, that was perfect.
Kent is going to start a costume fund for you, and yes.
Actually, we need to do that. We should do an Amazon.
I would like to donate, he said.
Do an Amazon
Oh my gosh.
gift circle for my pants that I turn up with in each week with my outfits. All right, so we'll get back to our cupping. I've also got a little toy I'm going to play with here at the end. I might start bringing in little bits and pieces and new pieces of equipment and new things you can take on camping or use at home or whatever. The one I'm gonna mess around with later on, you'll see me go live and see if I can work out how to use it. It's called the Nano Press. I've actually bought it years ago. A buddy of mine in Australia had one. I thought, hell, that looks like an awesome coffee gadget, so why not? I've got a really odd looking one over there in the cupboard too. But anyway, so we'll get back to the cupping. 2 bowls. Generally we work, how many do you guys run with normally when you're on the cupping table?
For a production roast, we only do 1 bowl, but if we're actually deciding whether we're going to buy the thing, 3 to 5 bowls, 5 trying to be the most consistent with, Q protocol, because we try to follow that pretty strictly. So yeah, 3 to 5, but production just 1 bowl.
I got 2.
I'm there too. Yeah.
Can you just repeat the coffee?
I do probably
you
2 during production, maybe 3 at most. And then if we're making a purchasing decision, pretty much any sample, arrival sample or pre-shipment sample or whatever it may be, we're dealing with a large quantity of coffee typically. So we do 5. Sometimes if we're doing a container coffee, we'll do 15 cups just to make sure that it's consistent.
Yeah, but you're taking them randomly. For those of you who didn't hear that, Brandon does a lot of buying of green beans from all around the world, different origins, and where he has worked before buy green beans by the container load. So huge amounts, and when you're talking about bringing coffee like that in by the container, and you're looking to taste them, and you're looking for making sure you don't have defects for one. Making sure you got the quality that you're buying and you paid for when it left the origin, and making sure that it is still the coffee you want. Hopefully, by the time it gets to the roasting facility, it's definitely you want it to still be the coffee that you paid all that money for, or that you are at a point where you've written a contract to say that I'll accept it, and it's good to go. So there you go. It goes everywhere from 1 cup to 15 cups. When we're on the cupping table, so we're using 2. In competition, generally we have 3, and I'll go back to the ratios. The ratios, because this bowl, So the ratios for the SCA are 8.25 grams per 150 milliliters. All right, and that converts, and it depends, you have to convert that per the bowls you are using. Now these bowls hold 225 milliliters roughly, and so I'm using about 1175 on my ratio. So actually I've got a little bit more. I like to go a little bit heavier. So I'm running about 12.2 grams per 225 on the bowl. So that's what I'm rolling with today.
Because I only ask you to repeat that because we have someone on Instagram asking what's the best way to taste their coffee if they don't have brewing methods at home, and that what we're doing is literally a way to do it without a brewing method because you're just putting it in a bowl, you're cupping it.
Yeah, that's interesting. You've got coffee at home, but you don't have a brewing method. Interesting question. All right, we'll roll with that.
Cup it.
Cup
There
it.
you go.
Cup it.
So it was.
Easiest way. You have a vessel. You have hot water.
I got hot water. You can see. I don't know if you guys can see in the background.
Brandon, you're friends with him. Hop on there and talk to him.
Yeah. So for us, the coffee grinds. I've used the drip filter grind method. And it's about, like I said before, and we've said in the days gone by, it's around that sugar to coarse salt consistency on the grinds. We've got our 12 grams of coffee sitting in the bowls there. We'll get the water up to temperature. I know I've boiled this once before. The other important thing is to have a stopwatch beside you. So I've just used my phone, stopwatch, and the stopwatch is the timing is laid out there in the SCA as well. It'll give you cupping protocols and cupping times, and then how to do it all. Where is that? It's on the sca.coffee website, and timing wise, you want to, Brandon or Jeremy?
Yeah. So you want to grind within 15 minutes of your actual cupping, because what you want to do first is dry fragrance. So you want to smell your coffee grounds to get, I guess, some notes from that. Those are really volatile. So I think that as soon as you grind it, you should really, as soon as possible, try to smell it and then try to brew it, because a lot of that stuff will start to dissipate with, kind of captured with the CO2 that's coming off the coffee as well. That's why, like, fresh ground coffee, when you're making coffee at home, whether it be on a Mr. Coffee or pour over, you want to grind it as fresh as possible, because that will actually capture a lot of those aromatics. So then after that, after you pour the water on top, you have about 3 minutes to 5 minutes before you do your first break.
And so, and what Brandon's saying there is, so we got to play between the two worlds. What Brandon's saying there is how we do the cupping on a professional basis. I've got the stopwatch going. I'll probably break this around 3 minutes. So, but if you're at home, it's a great practice to grind it and then to smell the coffee. You know, if you've ground it into like I've got a little vessel here that I use and I grind into. So once it's ground and it's in here, give it a smell and start to recognize, because for those of you who don't realize that the olfactory bulb in the back of up in the top of your head and the back of your neck there plays 75% of what we taste actually is involved with the fragrances and the aromas that we smell. So, you know, it's that old wives' tale, mum used to make you squeeze your nose to get the horrible medicine down. There's a reason for that, and it actually is real. So, you know, how we smell or how we taste anything has a lot to do with the olfactory bulb in the back of the nasal passage there, and it's part of why the aspiration happens when you do a cupping. I got this doo-doo thing going on, I tell you. Last week, I was cracking myself up last week, I tell you.
And I don't know
So
if you guys have noticed, but like when I smell something, whether it's the fragrance or the aroma, which is the actual bed once the water has been in there for a bit, when I slurp it, it's just the confirmation of the things that I've smelled. You will get for the fragrance, as Brandon knows, like it's more aromatic, more enzymatic type qualities for the actual fragrance. The aroma has a bit more depth to it because of the extraction process that is starting, so you get some more of those sugar browning flavors. But the rest of the cupping just confirms what I've already smelled, both in the fragrance and the aroma, and help me define throughout the cupping process.
yeah, I know, and there's part of that too is recognizing what part when I went through the queue, part of this was recognizing my weaknesses also, and I noticed that my dry fragrance aroma recognition was much stronger than my wet aromas coming off, and so when I was doing the cuppings and when I do the cuppings, I recognize that my recognition of dry fragrances and the taste correlate with each other when the wet didn't really and still doesn't for me. So there's a lot of practice I need to get on that. But we're already at 3:44 because I'm waffling on. But so the next part of this is called the break, and can it all be seen? Anyway, so the break on this is actually everything is being trapped underneath this nice crusty layer of coffee right now. So the idea right now is when we move this aside, we're actually going to get the first real waft of steam and full of the aromatics coming from the inside of the coffee. So we just get down low, get the back of the spoon in there, and then break the coffee. It is a beautiful coffee actually. It's really, really full depth, really dark, one of those dark cherry style. Lots of chocolate, a little bit of caramel, nice stone fruit stuff's going on. So it's broken now. We're at 4:30 roughly. The next part for me is I take the grounds off the top, give it a bit of a clean up.
What was your grind size, Scotty?
That was
For the at-home cupper.
home cupper. We're using the same as brewed coffee. And another important thing that I was missing out there, we always have to have a fresh cup for sterilization, cleanliness, and making sure when we're on the cupping table, it's a lot more. It's a lot different if we're at home and doing this at home. Protocols on a cupping table are much more stringent than this. I'm being a little bit rushed and cowboy with you guys. But it's our kitchens. Like, who cares? I can do what I want. But out there in the professional world with these guys, I can't afford to be slack. One, because they're great mates and I wouldn't want to do anything bad by them and cross-contaminate. But we're around about 6 minutes now. I know, usually from what's your experience? I know from about 4:30, actually time-wise, from about 6 minutes to 8 minutes, the water temperature starts getting into something that you can taste, and it's not going to burn the life out of you. So, see if I can do this.
I normally do first taste at about 8.5 minutes, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I'm going to see what the temperature's like. I'm going to imagine it's still a bit too hot, but
aspirating also helps with cooling the coffee down as it hits your inside of your mouth.
Yeah, when you're not in a hurry. So, back to everybody else. So we're back. So we got two clean cups right now. I've got my special spoon. It was given to me. I picked it up along the way. This. You guys have got some pretty flash spoons, I'm sure. I know Jeremy has. That's for certain. And but I like
share a love of good spoons.
We do.
Yeah, I haven't built on my collection. I've just got the one. I know, but I like this because of the weight. It's purely the shape and the weight is this is my cupping spoon. It travels with me in my backpack everywhere I go, anywhere in the world. So I know that I've always got it there at hand. And when I wear this flash apron,
Wait, let's see.
Whoa.
Wow.
It's got a nice spot for it. Wow,
Yeah.
that is
Pull out your spoon.
a sweet apron, man.
yeah, I need one on the other side.
Chef Adam Brown just joined us.
Chef Adam, good to see you, buddy. It's been a long time. Hope you're well. All right, so into the tasting. Lots and lots of different methods. It becomes very personalized. Like we were joking there earlier, we can hear Brandon across the room no matter where he is. He's an
Slurper.
exceptional aspirator. We should get you.
Can you do it, Brandon? Just
Put him on the spot. Let's do roll one out. Anyway.
I'll grab my spoon.
All right, so the process is tasting it, and the whole thing about cupping and tasting is about recognizing, like we talked about already, recognizing what's on your palate, aerating, and that's the biggest thing, is aerating the coffee across your tongue as best you can. This takes a lot of practice. I guarantee that I've choked more times than I care to remember, or coughed, or had it, go straight past my tongue and into my breathing pipe, and that's the end of me for a little while. But it takes practice and it takes a lot of time. But we scoop the liqueur up into the spoon. It depends on, like we talked about this, Brandon was talking about, and Jeremy was talking about it with ladles and mouths and all the rest of it earlier. But just the amount you take up is personal. Sometimes I've seen guys do, tiny little amounts, but still be able to recognize what's going in and what's on the coffee. So I'm using a little bit of this, and that's it. I won't spit it out there because it'll look terrible. But generally, when we're cupping, we've always got another cup with us. And that's the whole idea. So, and you just continue to taste this, and it's part of, even if you're doing it at home by yourself and you're using a brewed coffee, it's all about training, it's all about practice, and it's all about recognizing the flavors and standing in front of the SCA flavor wheel and just using what you have there at hand to help recognize what's happening both in your palate and seeing how you can correlate with the flavors that are being called out. This, like I said, this coffee got nice dark chocolate flavors. It's got some stone fruit sweetness and some stone fruit flavors.
Stone fruit.
Dark cherries out of this one for me. And it also has caramels, some nice caramel flavors. So all around, this is because it's out of Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, it's usually got that good, strong, nice. It's a nice medium to heavy body on this coffee, and especially coming out of the cupping off the cupping table. But yeah, so that's cupping. I mean, these guys do it on a regular basis. You got to hear how often they do it and what they do and how they do it, how often, and all those bits and pieces. I do it. We do it at least once to twice a week at Oceana. I do it nearly every day here at home. And that's more. My coffee at home comes through the brewed method, so the Mr. Coffee brewed method. As long as I've got like I said, and consistency. So as long as you've got something that you can do on a regular basis, and you have that one style that you can compare every coffee against using it, then that's what it's all about. And about recognition, and about doing what you can to understand what's in the coffee if you want to go down that path. That's where it's at. So hopefully that's been educational for you all, and hanging out with the guys. How are we doing for time?
We're good. We're good.
Good. I'm a little bit ahead of time. Hey, you guys, you got anything to add in there?
I think that one thing that helps beginners with cupping is breaking down the cup into certain aspects. So when we talk about flavor, or we talk about aroma, we can also talk about body and can talk about acidity, and we can talk about sweetness, and being able to, like, when you taste coffee, just train your mind to focus on one little aspect of that coffee, especially if you're trying to get data points. You know, you're trying to say this coffee is sweeter than this coffee, or this coffee is more acidic than this coffee. Making sure that you break down that taste and say, this taste, I'm going to focus on acidity, and then taste it, focus on acidity, write down your notes for acidity, and then move on to body or move on to sweetness or whatever it may be. Just tasting it and getting an all-around sense of the coffee should happen at the end of the cupping, but during the process, like, you should break down every little aspect or every little nuance of that cup.
Yeah, they're great points. Yeah, and to add to that, definitely is it doesn't matter how long it takes, or even, you know, when you're first starting out and you want to really get zoomed in on that sort of thing. That's a great points, and, you know, obviously the reason why you're in there writing all this stuff in the curriculum. So, but yeah, great points for the outside there on Facebook and Instagram. So
yeah, and I think this is a great, you know, cupping with friends, right, is always a good thing too, as you're getting better and developing. Yeah. So actually, this kind of a format for the foreseeable future might be a great way. Is, you know, get with some friends, all of you buy the same bag of Oceana Coffee, and compare it. You know, cup it together from afar. It's definitely comparing notes. You know, make everybody better too.
Yeah, we've had a few people this morning that are tasting the coffee with us, and Chef Adam Brown, he's loving the coffee this morning, and it's always great to hear what people think, but then to taste along with somebody who is a professional, it helps you get a little more out of your coffee too. So that could be something really fun that we keep doing.
yeah, but also, you know, as Jeremy said, it's you know, I think I like this format. I want to hear from everybody out there on Instagram and Facebook world. I want to do this some more with the boys on the screen. I really appreciate. I love hanging out with these guys anyway. I certainly appreciate their level of professionalism and what they bring to the table. And I definitely want to, you know, I think what we'll do is the four of us will start exchanging coffees from each of where we are from. I know, you know, Mark up there in Onyx Coffee Lab. You know, Jeremy running BonLife, and Brandon, whatever Brandon brings, he's bringing Crimson Cup. Yeah, we'll bring that. And so, you know, and it's also, this is also about, it's educational for the customers out there, but it's also helping us all recognize, you know, because we're in 4 different parts of the country. So, you know, if we can all look after each other and get our customers to, you know, look, if they've got uncles and aunts and family in different parts of the country, then why not steer them to one of us who looked after them and educate them along the way and help them out. So if you're up there in Tennessee, make sure you check out BonLife and Jeremy and Erica's, them up there. Mark in Arkansas. I don't know this country. I'm just sort of, and then where'd I go? Idaho. No? Ohio.
Or Idaho. We have a shop in Boise, so come check it out.
Oh, Boise.
I love Idaho.
I was joking.
Idaho is beautiful.
I know where you're at.
We have a question about.
I thought you were hanging out there with Ben, but anyway, we're good.
We have a question about. You're
That's funny.
About water temperature for cupping. Does it change? What's the water temperature that you start with?
It's the same. So, so cupping water temperature is ultimately around 200 to 202. You know, but it's the same as what we talk about. We talk about that 200 to 205 on all the brewing temperatures of coffee, and so yeah, 200 is about where you want to be. So I'm playing with this new little gadget while we're all talking. Any more questions out there? Any more words of advice from the wisdoms?
We had someone ask about
Drink it how you like it.
What?
Amen. Amen.
Drink it how you like it.
Drink it
Yeah,
how you like
you
it.
know what? And I've said that multiple times. I think that's why I enjoy doing this the most. It's not about us as roasters, we can make the coffee. You know, some roasters out there can absolutely destroy it. But the guys that I've got on screen here talking about, they're some of the best roasters in the country. So what we do with coffee is one thing, but how you drink it at home and what it tastes like to you is what's important to us. You know, it's not about what we do. We can do whatever we want to the coffee, and we can have our own preconceived ideas of how we think it should be. But if you drink a coffee, and I've said this in some of my Saturday mornings, if it's white and 2 sugars, then that's what it is. If you've got sugar and you do it all that way, then great. So what?
I will tell
Ricky,
you now,
Ricky from
I've
Balzac
had,
and all.
because we compete a lot, and Jeremy probably can attest to this too, and Brandon and everybody, but I brought home some coffees that were competition coffees that I bought from Onyx or something I was cupping, and wifey would just put a whole bunch of and I'm talking $200 a pound coffees, and stuff that we always try to procure enough so that our people, like at least locally, can drink it too. And so it destroys me every time, but I've come to realize at this point that she's going to be who she is, and just got to smile and go, well, you've ruined, I mean, it's great.
It's great.
And we've all got to be very careful with that. But yeah, but you know, and I say that to lots of people. You know, when they drink, if they come into my shop for the very first time, I want them to drink my coffee how they are used to drinking everybody else's coffee, because it's the only way that you're going to know how we stand up in how our coffee, you know, is compared to others. You know, and initially what happens is they come in and they have cream and they have sugar and away they go, and they eventually come back and they have less and less additives into the coffee as they go, and eventually we get to hear on a regular basis, oh, your coffee's the only one that I can ever drink black. And I've never had a black coffee like that before. So, you know, that's what we look to portray. I know these boys on the screen are all the same. These boys are on the screen doing the same thing. You know, that's what it's about for us. It's about, you know, enjoying the coffee that it is in the cup at home. You know, like I've got 3 or 4 coffees in front of me. I know this one here, I got this one on Brew, out of the Mr. Coffee Brewer. It's Ethiopia Limu. I just pulled the little shot out of the Nano Espresso.
Yeah, Kent wants to know what you were squeezing.
He was milking the coffee cow.
Firefighter Kent wants to know what you're...
So who can see this? So this little gadget is called a Nano Press, Nano Presso. It's like this. It comes in a little case. I should get money for promotions.
And why does it pop out? Does it get excited that you're...
And we're live!
And we're live! We're going live! And the boys are back! Alright, I think it might be time for a bourbon. Alright. So it comes in its own little travel case. Comes just like this. The little handle here, this little piece twists and pops up. This actually pressurizes. It's a little tiny, it's espresso. So one end is water. So one end holds the water. The other end is where you put your coffee and your grounds and your shot. So I've made a bit of a mess, but who cares? Very, very simple. Little puck full of, I filled it full of coffee while we were watching there before. And all you really do is assemble it all together. This little trigger comes out and it pumps it up. So all you're doing is pressurizing. You're doing espresso, because that's all espresso is. Coffee under pressure, and that's what it is. And this pumps up to about 9 bar, I think they claim, which is quite a bit. But yeah, it's a handheld, stick in your pocket, take it camping. Good little, and it delivers a really cool little cup. Actually, I ran this one. This is the my Guatemala natural process. I'm going to send you boys next time. We'll do a cupping with the Guatemala natural slick coffee. So,
What varietal is it? Pacamara?
no. I'll find out what varietal. I think it's actually great question. I'll look it up. I'll see what my data sheet says on it. But it's not Pacamara, no. But fun coffee, actually, really quite surprisingly fun. But yeah. What were you saying? 3? What was 3?
About 4 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah, I was just giving
Alright.
you a little bit of a warning, and then we can do our
Want to do the toddy drawing?
reminders and
Oh
coffee.
yeah, all right. 5 minutes to go. How you boys doing?
I think we should do another one of these at like 5 p.m. when it's acceptable to have a comparative bourbon tasting.
Today?
Ooh. For now. I mean, it's
We
Saturday.
can go
It
now.
is Saturday.
I mean, what you could do, Scotty, is just take a little bit of shots and then send it to us, and then we could try it at 5 p.m. on Saturdays.
There you go.
It sounds like a good plan.
Saturday
What?
morning coffee
Actually,
tasting, Saturday evening.
That's a great idea. You want to go live this afternoon? What's in your bourbon collection right now?
It's dwindling. It's dwindling.
I know you've got
What's
a
your
hell of
favorite right now?
Angel's Envy? Or
my
St.
favorite right
Augustine?
now.
St. Augustine?
Overall, I think so far my favorite has been Angel's Envy. Honestly, what have I got in the cabinet right now? I like.
Peanut butter.
Oh yeah, I've been messing around with that screwball. It's a novelty. It's fun. I do a peanut butter and PB&J old fashioned.
Nice.
So I do the peanut butter infused bourbon with maraschino cherries and a splash of raspberry Torani syrup. It's
It's dessert.
dessert. Anyway, Angel's Envy's one. I know this is a sidetrack and we're still live, but
Nice.
St. Augustine. And I got some Woodford Reserve there, and I got another one. Actually, there's another really cool one. I'll show you off camera, but we got some of those. Anyway, we got a drawing to do.
Yeah, you want to do that?
We're going to draw the winner of. We're giving away a toddy cold brew system. I think what we're going to do into the future, we're going to look and talk to some of our people that we're involved with, and we'll look at seeing if we can give away an espresso machine or something along the way. See if we can wangle that along the way and see what we got. But today is a home toddy system. We had a lot of people interact with us and tagged friends and promoted us, and that's what we're looking for, honestly. You know, love it if you guys are enjoying the live stuff, enjoying hanging out with these guys. I think we're going to have these guys back more often depending on their schedules and what they're up to. But coffee education, getting you guys through what's going on now out there in this crazy world, but you know, helping out at home and seeing what we can do and making everything better and taste better and be better for you. So the winner.
Yeah, so the way we do this, we're going to choose a random number. I've got Google random number generator, and it says number 23 is the winner, and that would be Patricia Carroll. So Patricia
Yay,
Carroll.
Patricia!
Yay, Patricia!
Yay!
I don't know that if she's watching today. You don't have to be watching today to win. So we'll reach out to you and get you your toddy for home and some cold brew blend.
So our signature cold brew blend will come with this, the 12-ounce bag, the toddy. It'll be shipped to you, and we'll include our recipe. If you weren't watching last weekend, I do this a little different than most. I do what's called a flash cold brew. You know, the hot water right over the top with ice behind it. So we'll include that and get you started and get you going in the right direction with this. So you'll be set for summer, especially down here. My
Jen
God.
Stone says, "Are you sure she's the winner?" Sorry, Jen.
That's why we do a random number generator, so we can't, you know, just It is what it is.
Yeah, they are. We have them on our website. They're about $45, I think, on the website. So they're cheap. And considering what they deliver, they're awesome. Boys, it's been amazing to catch up with you guys. We'll stay on the line until after we switch off here. But thanks again for all of your input. Round of applause from the social media world for the boys on the screen. They are amazing.
Remember, free shipping, WFH April. For our Instagram followers, free shipping anywhere in the country right now.
Let's grab those donuts. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get a haircut.
So quick plug for our friends over there at Jupiter Donuts, all local guys, Adam, Don, Crystal, doing an amazing job with their team. I was over there yesterday actually looking after one of their machines, but Jupiter Donuts, if you haven't, they're still doing curbside. Yep. They're doing curbside, we're doing curbside, both stores doing curbside. Oceana has changed its hours, so keep an eye out for that on social media and on the doors of the locations. We've trimmed it down a little bit. Not a great deal, but still pumping out the coffee. Online, local delivery, we're doing local delivery, so for you guys who live in the local area who don't live in a gated community, we have tried delivering gated communities a couple of times, it don't work. So if you have easy access, we do local delivery for you guys, so check it out. We've been playing with, keep an eye out for us, Modern Juice this week. We're looking to do a pop-up in Modern Juice.
We'll start on
So
Wednesday.
starting on Wednesday if that all goes to plan. But in the meantime, stay safe.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
We're eating Hibiscus Street Catering tomorrow.
Hibiscus Street Catering, yeah. And Jeremy and I may be back live here at 5 o'clock.
See you at 5.
See you guys later.
Awesome.